You guys are going to have an examiner sitting right there. You're not going to know, he's not going to know you, you're not going to know him, right? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to tell him what we're doing, okay? You guys are in automatics, so your wheels should be chalked for your air brakes, okay? Because on a manual you don't have to chalk them, because when we do our applied pressure test, we put it in low gear, and then that keeps us from rolling when we release all of our brakes. In the manuals, you're going to put it in neutral, and you're going to release your brakes, so your truck could roll on blacktop. So your wheels have to be chalked, okay, on an automatic. Okay.
So they're not already chalked. You got to get out there. And where do they keep them?
You're gonna get in there. The first thing you're gonna tell them is that my wheels are chalked, so it's safe to perform my air brake test. Okay. And then you're gonna tell them, okay, at this time I am gonna go ahead and perform my air brake test. The first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna put on your seatbelt. Okay. You're gonna tell them I'm gonna make sure that my seatbelt is properly mounted and secured to the cab. It's not ripped, torn, or frayed, and that it latches and releases properly. Okay, on test day, you're gonna leave your seatbelt on. I did my seatbelt, I'm gonna tell them about my gauges, okay? I want you to know that I got a primary gauge and a secondary gauge, okay? For today's test, all readings are gonna be coming from my primary gauge, okay? And before we begin any test today, we must be below 90 PSI, and we are, all right? So now I'm gonna go ahead and perform my safe start. My safe start is making sure both my brakes are applied. You're gonna have an automatic, so your gear lever is gonna be right here. You'll see it on Monday.
That's all.
You just want to make sure your brakes are applied. You're in neutral, and then you're gonna start the truck. Okay. So that's a safe start. Brakes, neutral, start the truck. All right.
Safe start.
Neutral. Now I'm going to tell them the first test I'm going to perform is my governor cutout test. That's the only thing I have to tell them. Then you're going to perform it. Okay? You can go ahead and bring your RPMs up in between 10 and 15 to make it build up quicker. All right. So roughly around 1,200 RPMs. This fucking truck there's a safety feature on it where you got to push the clutch in.
Shut off at 3 minutes?
Yeah, otherwise it won't rev more than right there. Alright, so I'm just going to push in my clutch a little bit to make it go faster, okay? In between 75 and 100 PSI, which we're at now, you're going to push in your trailer brake. Okay? That's just going to open up the chambers to the trailer. All the air, now we can fill up our trailer and the tractor. What that's going to do is it's going to give us more accurate readings for our test. Okay? Now I'm going to go all the way to governor cutout. Governor cutout is where this needle stops rising at. Okay? In most cases, on most of these trucks, you can hear a burst of air that comes from the bottom of the truck when the governor cuts out. It goes psh. In that case, you know your governor cut out. If you don't hear it, you're staying focused to your needle, okay? Whenever your needle stops rising, that's where your governor cut out at, okay? When you push in your red trailer brake, this needle is going to go stagnant for a minute because all your air is rushing back to the trailer. So it's actually going to stop rising for a minute. Then once the trailer gets full, it gets caught up, the needle will start rising again, okay? So they want the number where it maxed out at, not where it fell back down to, okay? Because in most cases, once you hit cutout, your needle will start to fall again, okay? So they want the number that it maxed out. In this case, it was 126 psi. Okay. So I'm going to tell my examiner, my governor cut out at 126 psi. So this is a good test because it cut out before 140 psi. All right. That's your governor cutout test. This is the governor cut in.
What will happen if it cuts out after?
Then your cut in should occur before 100 psi. Okay.
Yeah, better.
All right. So for the governor cut-in test, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my brake one time. I don't want to go below 100, okay? So I'm gonna see how hard I can hit it. I think where we're at right now, I can hit it pretty decent. But I'm going to pump my brake one time, and then I'm going to wait 8 to 15 seconds to see if my needle rises. If it doesn't rise, I'm going to pump it again. But we got to see where our gauge starts rising at, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and pump my brake. We're at 103 right now, okay? So I'm going to see if my needle rises from there. And it is, okay? So as soon as it starts to move, so we were at, my needle started to rise at 103 psi. So this is a good test because we did not go below 100 psi. All right? Now, the next test I'm going to perform is my applied pressure test. For this test, we need to be at maximum air pressure. So that means I need to hit governor cutout one more time, okay? So I'm gonna rev it back up until I get governor cutout again. All right, there's my governor cutout. You don't have to give them the number, you just need to be at maximum air pressure. And then now what we're gonna do is we're gonna shut off the truck. We're gonna push in our yellow parking brake, okay?
This is a little air warning.
This is the applied pressure test. Okay, after we push in our brake, we're gonna wait for our gauge to stabilize, and that just means for it to stop moving, okay? Because once you push this in, you're gonna lose a little bit of pressure. Okay, so you wait for that gauge to stop moving. As soon as it does, we're gonna hit our brake, and this is the one that we're gonna hold our brake for 1 minute, okay? We're not allowed to lose more than 4 psi in 1 minute on this test, okay? So my gauge is stabilized, right? So I'm gonna hit my brake. Once the gauge stabilizes, I'm gonna give the examiner my reading one more time. I don't know what that is, but okay. So I'm gonna tell him my primary gauge reads 99 psi. I'm now going to clock 1 minute, okay? You got to go a full minute. If you don't wear a watch, you can use your cell phone, okay? We're losing air, so our airlines might be fucked up. Now I hit my brake. Yeah, see, it's not leaking no more. Once it stops, I give the examiner my reading. My primary gauge reads 100 psi. I'm now going to clock 1 minute, okay? So you guys got to go the full minute. Like I said, if you don't wear a watch, you're going to use your cell phone. But you got to go a legitimate minute, okay?
The examiner will let you mess around with your phone to get it.
Yeah, you want to have your phone already set up.
To the second.
Have it set up. My primary gauge still reads 100 psi. So this is a good test because I did not lose more than 4 psi in 1 minute, okay? Then you can take your foot off the brake. Okay? All right. Low air warning test, okay? For that, you need to turn your key on, or else you won't hear your low air warning. You just turn on the ignition without starting the truck. Okay, you get to your accessories. Okay, once your gauges cycle, you let them cycle, okay? Once they cycle, now you're just gonna start pumping the brakes until your light and your buzzer both come on, okay? And once they come on, you stop pumping the brakes. No, not yet. Okay? And it's got to stay solid, okay? So you seen the way it went on, went off, went on, went up. It's got to stay solid like that, okay? And it's got to stay solid throughout the whole test. If you start to tell them everything about this test and it shuts off, you need to stop what you're doing, hit your brake one more time, and then start all over again. It has to stay solid, okay? So now I'm going to tell them, okay, My low air warning activated just like that, okay? If I would have got all the way through, I would be 5 PSI. So this is a good test because it activated between 55 and 75 PSI. All right?
That's
our,
like speed
that's spring brake test, okay? So now from here, I'm just gonna keep pumping the brakes until both of these pop out, okay? Okay, and you want to make sure that both of them popped out, because if only one popped out and you say it's a good test, it's an automatic fail. Okay, if only one pops out, it's going to be your red trailer brake. That's always going to pop first before you park the brake.
Do you keep pumping though?
Yeah, what you do is you stop, you give them the reading to what that popped out at, and then you continue pumping your brakes until the other one pops out. Then you give them that reading, and then you tell them if it's a good test. Both of them have to pop out between 20 and 45 PSI for it to be a good test. Okay? So we're right on the border. We're 45. So I'm going to go ahead and tell them, okay, out at 45 PSI. So this is a good test because they both popped out between 20 and 45 PSI. This concludes my air brakes test.